Okay, I'm Thomas. I play guitar.
I'm JP and I sing.
I mean, I guess we kind of played in some similar sounding bands. I was playing a lot of kind of noisier stuff. JP was always writing poppier stuff. Then I was always a big fan of his music, and he was always a big fan of the bands I was playing in, so we always saw each other at shows. Never really connected, though, until our bands played together in Miami, and we just kind of started talking, and I had heard some of the stuff that he was writing with TJ, which turned into Surfer Blood songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd really love to, if we could get together and play, just jam together. And I was like, even if we just started a new band or anything, and he was all about it. Yeah. And then he kind of got to talk, he kind of asked me, he's like, well, would you want to play on these songs, on these songs that you've heard? And I said, I'd love to. Yeah. And that was, it was actually at a Diplo. Diplo was throwing like an after party for Ultra
Music Festival. Yeah,
that's kind of where we decided that we would get together. And I think the next day we got together, and within a month we were booking a tour. So
it's a nice story, I guess.
It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really smooth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess I've read you say that Surfer Blood, this album, it was the result of a really kind of involved year of kind of writing, recording, and obviously you did all the recording yourself, so it was quite an involved process. Could you talk a bit about maybe some of the challenges you faced and some of the obstacles you overcame?
Well, the challenge to making this record was one that I'd never made a record before.
Yeah.
And I guess I looked on the internet a lot and asked a lot of friends, asked for a lot of advice. I'm kind of glad we did it ourselves because it came out sounding unique. It doesn't sound like a lot of other records, and part of that is just because I was probably doing stuff that aren't necessarily industry standard, I guess. But I think it's also good because I got to spend a lot of time, got to listen to it in the car a lot and drive around with it. There was no real rush to get it out, and even when we did have it finished, we had no idea what would happen with it, and but it's been really well received, and I'm really happy that other people are so into it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Very well received. You guys got was it number 37 best song on Pitchfork for 2009, and I guess that song in particular kind of really resonated with a lot of audiences and brought people to the album. What would you say has been like the biggest change in your life since the album came out, maybe in terms of your daily schedules or the demands on your time?
Well, this is kind of our job now. By the end of this year we will have toured 8 months out of the year, so it's kind of hard to have a job in a restaurant while you can only work 4 months a year and you don't really know when that's going to be. And we had to get used to a lot of stuff like interviews and photo shoots.
I've definitely become a better musician, and especially since we've been touring so much and playing the same songs, you get kind of this buildup of ideas that you'd like to eventually try. So when we get home and we have like a week off, it's just amazing. I'm coming up with more stuff than I ever have, just because I'm like dying to write new music. And
I guess on that note of recording and writing new songs, do you have any time at all when you're on the road, or is it very much when you get back home you kind of intensively spend time in the studio?
We spend a lot of time demoing and coming with ideas when we're at home, and when we're on the road, you do what you can. It's not the best environment conducive to writing music necessarily, but during sound check we'll come up with ideas and we'll expound upon those, and like I said, we do what we can, but I think we're really going to need a good stretch of time off to like take all these ideas and sort of sort through them and see what's going to kind of stick to the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess I'm interested because the way that the record is being perceived, I guess in a lot of the reviews that were written, is that it's a really kind of intense burst of sunshine, like happiness and joy, and like people call it, the summer album. But obviously that's not where all of the songs are coming from, and in fact your own relationship with the surf and the sun is kind of maybe a bit more complicated than one of embracing it entirely. Can you talk a little bit about the meanings for the album for you?
I think one of its strengths is that there's a lot of variation. We were trying to do we were reaching out in a lot of different directions, and I'm just really happy that it came together as well as it did as a cohesive whole. But some of the songs come from really a much darker place. Anchorage and Slow Jabroni are two long, really drawn out, kind of almost droning, really brooding numbers,
which are also our favorite, our two favorite songs.
Yeah, and I consider those sort of like the magnum opus of this record. I love 3-minute pop songs just as much as anybody else. Swim is obviously fits kind of in that category. So does Twin Peaks, Floating Vibes, stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of different elements to our sound that are overlooked a lot because people listen to the first 2 songs on the record and decide that we're a sunshine band or whatever arbitrary term they want to create.
Definitely.
It's funny too because I mean, certain tracks like Take It Easy. I don't know if you're familiar with the track, but I mean, just every time I hear the chorus of that song, even when I'm playing it, it kind of bums me out because I feel like it's actually a really dark song, and it is a bit upbeat, but no, I think it's a pretty dark album in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where people take a name and run with it, especially journalists. No offense, but it just seems like sometimes it's just too easy.
It's just lazy sometimes. I mean, just like when we first started, we were being compared to the Beach Boys and bands like Waves, and we're just like, come on,
Go
no
deeper.
way.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe in terms of like your thoughts for the forthcoming records and forthcoming recordings, have you laid down any definitive versions of songs that you're hoping to put out, and can you talk a little bit about them?
Nothing really definitive yet. Right now we just have some arrangement that we've been working on, but we're still in the process of building the songs up. We have a lot of material, and it's a matter of trying to focus that material that I think right now is what's going to be the big challenge for us.
Yeah, we have a lot of guitar parts right now.
A lot of riffs.
Yeah,
a lot of riffs.
So much more than that, but I like it. I mean, it's my favorite stuff that I've done so far personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to put the songs together too, and I think that this album will take shape nicely too as an entire record, listening it from start to finish. The more I kind of like dive into this material, I think.
And in terms of your ability to record it once you finish up on this Australian leg, do you have any time in the near future to kind of go back and work on them in the studio, or?
Well, we're definitely going to go into a studio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one thing. It's kind of funny. I forget who I was explaining it to, but like our album might be considered quote unquote lo-fi, but that's just because none of us had any money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd love to go into a real studio.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're even going to be able to record until December, January.
But it's also good in a way because it gives us time to think about the songs more and more. Because the worst thing is recording a drum track for a song and then deciding that the structure doesn't work or that's that you don't like it that way. I think it's really good to go into a studio with a really clear idea of what you want, because otherwise you're kind of just wasting your time a little bit.
Yeah,
it's funny, whenever we kind of jam on the new songs that we have, I think about the songs on Astro Coat, and it's literally nothing that you can add to them. I mean, in my opinion, like, I don't listen to it thinking, oh, I wish this was here, or I wish I was hearing this on this part. But when we're playing our new songs that we just wrote, like, that's all I'm thinking is like, oh, it needs something else, it needs this, it needs that,
Yeah, part of knowing when a record is done is knowing when to just send it out and say, it's done. So
yeah, that's it.
Because you
can agonize over it for infinity, but
I could have agonized over like 2 or 3 parts of our record for the rest of my life if I hadn't just one day listened to these guys and been like, yeah, it's time to relinquish the thing.